All right, we're up next here. We're the two hand. Go right into it here. Hands 2, 3, and 4 from this tournament. I raise 3, 4 suited and small blind calls. Big blind 3 bets. Comes back around to me. I call. Calls are both pretty deep. I think he thinks I'm getting out of line. He's a regular, and I've seen him in a lot of tournaments. These tournaments before he's played with me, and I do raise a lot in late position, and you should in these tournaments. So I feel like he's possibly making a move, and if he's got a big hand, this is a perfect hand. I have position, so I end up making the call, and brings the small blind in. Flop comes King Jack 5, gives me the flush. Okay, so it gets checked to me. I, of course, or about half pot. I guess we can double check on the sizing on that later. Call. And the 3-better actually folded. So he was doing what I thought maybe he was doing, is just trying to make a move. So the turn is another king. The small blind here checks. Now, because he called me with a guy behind, and now he checks, there's a very good possibility he has a king here. And he's not folding a king. He's not folding a jack. So I don't think there's any fold equity. So there's no sense. You should not be betting your draws as a semi-bluff if there's no fold equity, obviously. So I check it back. The river is a 2 o'clock, giving me the flush. But the thing is the small blind here, who's an old guy who's not very active, he jams all in. And it comes back around to me. And yes, I made my flush, but this is for his tournament life. It's over a pot-sized bet. And yeah, I mean, if he had... So what you have to do here is what I had to do is you have to go back. Just do a little hand reading. Don't just put him on King Jack or a both. Because think about this. When I bet on the flop, he just called. And yes, he could just call with a king, but if he had King Jack or pocket fives with the guy behind him, he would probably raise. He did not raise. He just flatted. That's the key here. So when the turn comes a king and it goes check, check, you think, oh yeah, something like King Jack, you could see, yeah, he could still play. He could just, pocket fives, he would check, waiting for me to bet again. But the thing is here, hand reading, you have to realize that he did not raise the flop. So there's a very good chance that, yes, he could just call with King Jack or pocket fives. I don't think he does. Most people don't. So when the river comes a flush for me, the only thing I can think of is maybe he's overvaluing a king. Maybe he has something like King 10. He thinks that's good. Maybe. So because he didn't raise the flop, I ended up calling. And he turns around and he shows me ace of clubs, which was unusual. I guess he was turning the ace of clubs into a bluff, trying to say that he had a nut flush. I mean, it's possible he could have a higher flush, honestly, the way he played it. But I don't know. I guess, I was more concerned about boats. If he has a higher flush, so be it. I just, I don't know. I guess that's the one thing he could have. He was repping the nut flush. But he was just bluffing. So I was good. So let's look at this a little closer real quick. Okay, we're going to pull up our handy dandy solver here, which you can find for free on pokerpro.us.com. And please click subscribe right now. Hold on. Oh, wait a minute. You click subscribe? Okay, cool. All right, so out of position, in position range, I'm raising with all kinds of stuff here on the button. It's pretty much self-explanatory. Out of position, older guy with the guy behind him in the small blind. I put him on mostly the Broadway hands, calls with pairs, and I put in half of like suited aces and some suited connectors. Typically, the small blinds range, geez, I can't talk, is tighter than the big blind for calling, but he's a rec player. I think this is a good range for him. So we went ahead and already ran the solver, and we got the results here. I used some different bet sizings. Basically, 3-4 suited. Oh, well, out of position. That's this guy. I put in the small blinds range. We're not looking at the big blind because he just folded. So out of position checked. Comes around to me, 3-4 suited. Obviously, with the clubs, you're going to want to bet, but it actually says here you want to pretty much bet. Um, I messed this up. My bet sizings, I wanted in position too. Hold on 1 second. I'm going to rerun this. I'll pause it. All right, we're back. We're back. So he's going to be checking most of the time. He should be checking. Comes around to me. And with the old 3-4 suited, we're going to want to bet most of the time. Obviously, he uses doesn't really care about the sizing. He says there's a third, there's a half, there's 2/3. I bet half. So comes around to him, and ace queen off. Really, I didn't even put in his range. Go back to the ranges here. Hold on a second. Well, I gave things away here. Didn't mean to, but I put in a couple king queen and eight suited and ace queen. Really, in the small blind versus my open, you should be three betting that. But some rec players will just call the hands like ace queen. They'll three bet ace king, but they'll call with ace queen. So I put that in his range, and basically he checks to me. He's going to check 100%, especially with the other guy there, and 3-4 suited with the clubs. I am 70% of the time betting. It could be, whatever you want to bet, 30%, 50%, 100%. I bet 50% comes around to him. And with the ace queen, he calls half the time. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Other hands he could be calling with. What other hands are in his range that he would call with? Well, he's folding most of his hands like pocket sixes, pocket eights, pocket fours, which is a good thing for us. On hands that are, actually ahead of us, beating us. He's, of course, calling with his kings, all of his kings, all of his jacks, pretty much standard. So he called. And then the turn came another king. And he checked. Now me, with my 3-4 suited, I check behind. It says 50% of the time check, 50% of the time bet with my particular hand. It looks like it's kind of, you can check or you can bet 50-50. And it looks like most of the time you probably want to bet high with no equity. But a hand like what I have, where I have a bit of equity, which is the 3-4 of clubs, because I have the flush draw here, it looks like a little bit, 40% of the time bet, and then the other times pretty much check. So I like a check back here, because what am I getting him to fold, honestly? If I bet, what is he calling with? He's calling with his kings. I guess it's good because you can get him to fold out some hands like ace queen off and ace 10 off. You can get him to fold his jacks, some of his jacks. But we have to think about this is solver. In real world, real life, the king comes on the turn. He's calling with his king. He's calling with his jack. He's not folding, period. So check. Check is the correct answer. The river came in a flush. And call exactly what flush it was. Where did I say it was? It doesn't really matter. Brings in the flush. And out of position bets. And what should he be betting with? If he's got a jack, he could bet. I don't like that. Of course, his kings would bet half the time. Check half the time. Ace 10, check. Jack 10, check. Ace queen, he shouldn't have any ace queen. He should have been long gone folded by now with his ace queen. But anyway, he bets. And of course, you have to keep in mind here, I just tried to re-sign up with Tile Solver. Because I told the guy I don't like it, didn't have some pre-flop stuff, so never mind. He refunded me, but then I'm finding the value in it as far as being able to node lock. For example, if I know for a fact out of position he's, for example, it's saying here that he's betting with ace jack. He's betting with jack 10. He's betting with ace 10. He's not. He's really not. I mean, I guess he could be as a bluff. This guy actually was bluffing to ruin it. But anyway, I like to node lock to more of what most people do, which is what you can do. That's the main advantage of buying Pile Solver, is being able to node lock. So I'm in position. He bets, comes around to me with the flush. I am 100% calling. 5-4 suited, 3-4 suited. Who am I calling with? I don't know why it says fold sometimes. 6-5. There's no 6-5 of clubs. 7-6 of clubs, calling half the time. Well, here it is right here. Call 100%. It's a little confusing. I see it says here. 3-4 suited. 3-4 clubs. You can see right here. I got confused by that bar, but it actually thankfully says right there, call 100% of the time with your flushes. Call 100% of the time with your flushes, which I'd expect, because typically the GTO has people bluffing more than what people bluff. So GT will say you call more than you really should, which is why I like node locking on Pile Solver. But just kind of went through that real quick. Correct response is a call. As it turned out, the villain had ace queen off, representing the nut flush, which I really was surprised about. Because he didn't raise on the floppy, I didn't think he had a boat. He could have a higher flush, but I don't know. I just felt like I should have thought more about it, because maybe if I think wrong, I would have maybe found a fold. But he was representing the nut flush having the ace of clubs, but it just didn't make sense to me that he would have a boat. And if he doesn't have a boat, if he's jamming, it felt polar. He felt like he either had a boat or nothing. If he has a nut flush, would he really jam? Wouldn't he probably bet half pot? Try to get some value from me having a king? That's the thing you have to think about too, right? When people just jam, a lot of times it doesn't make sense. You really got to make a call sometimes. So even though I was an older guy, he didn't seem real active. I made the correct call here with the flush, and that was this hand. We're going to go on to the next hand. Enough talking about this one. So this was my bust out hand. This is the one that knocked me out, and I'm not happy at all with how this hand. So I raised under the gun with pocket kings, and the big blind, everyone folded, except the big blind had called. Comes 10-7-3. He checks. I bet half pot, and he checked raised 45. So I bet 15,000 into 30. He made it 445,000, and this kind of a raise 3 times. It's kind of a smaller raise. It kind of smelled to me like he was just he was definitely a wreck player. He was not a good player. So it felt to me like it was just to protect my hand, right? These guys just want to raise to protect their hand. The correct play here is to just call, by the way. Or you're only getting called by better. Yes, I could have hearts, but you're out of position. You're bloating the pot, and I could have you crushed. And as you can see, I do have him crushed. So I don't like his raise one bit. We'll see what GTO says in a minute. But I ended up calling, putting him on a 10 top pair, exactly what he had. Turn was a queen, and he offsuit queen, and bets full pot. It's them all in. 100,000 chips. That's exactly what I got left. It's about what I have, 20 big blinds left. And at the time, I was thinking, well, he could just be protecting and going with his 10. He felt this 10 was good. I did not think he had anything like a set or anything along those lines, because if he did, I don't think he'd make it 45. I think he probably just jammed to protect in case I have a flush. He just seemed like that type of player. So when he bets full pot here, I'm thinking he always just going with a 10, and he doesn't want to see a heart come out. But or 8-9, it could have an open ender. But the fact of the matter is, this is an overcard. He doesn't like this. I'm the pre-flop racer. This should scare him. So if he doesn't have queen 10, he would check. He jammed, and I thought about it. I made a terrible call, and sure enough, he flipped over queen 10. Now I could turn around and say, "Oh, what a bad beat," and I got sucked out on 500, which I did. But the fact of the matter is, I have to realize that a rec player, when he sees an overcard here, unless he hit two pair, he's not betting full pot for his tournament life. He's checking. Or he's betting small maybe, but he's not jamming. And at the time, I was like, God, he's got queen 10. God, he's got queen 10. I know he's got queen 10. Well, maybe he's just protecting his 10, And sometimes you make the mistake of getting married to hands and you end up making bad calls. Well, this was a horrible, horrible, horrible call by me. Of course, he's got queen 10. Easy fold. Easy fold for me. And I called, and that's what knocked me out. So we can pull this up here in the solver. But all right, out of position range, which is the big blind here that called. I put him on a range of pretty much Broadway hands. Most of the time, 70% of the time, I said he calls with a suited ace, and then his suited connectors as pairs. Early position raising, I raise pretty wide in these tournaments because most of the time I feel like I'll play my opponents, especially in late position. And I just found it's more profitable in these low-level tournaments to open wider than GTO really says you should in early position. So this is basically my opening range. It's probably a little bit wider than this, but I am under the gun. So anyway, go to the solver, the results here. Out of position checks, and which he most likely would do. And it comes around to me, and with pocket kings here, I have a clear bet. Solver likes betting small. I bet more half pot. I bet half pot is what I bet. So he turned around, and he's got queen 10 off. And as you see, queen 10 should just be calling. It should not be raising. But he ended up raising. So that's one mistake by him. Comes around to me with the pocket kings. Funny thing is, it likes most of the time an all in. It says 25% of the time with kings you can call, but 70% of the time it likes a jam. Of course, if you turn around and come back to out of position, what he had, when he's raising, he's raising with a set, of course. And what else does it say he's raising with? A set. %33% of the time he's raising with a flush draw, which is kind of surprising. Ace Jack of Hearts. 68% of the time he's raising with that flush draw. If he has 8-9. 8-9 of Hearts. He is just calling, surprising, with the combo draw because he's not supposed to raise it. Here, it shows that we sometimes do have queen 10. And if we did, we're supposed to be checking it. But he went all in. And it comes around to me in position. And it's strictly a call. Kings, strictly a call. Now, one thing I wanted to look at real quick here. We're going to do something called node locking, which is the main reason to have this program. So I turn around and I go to the set strategy here. And basically, with any 10, so top pair, he's betting. Well, I had to edit this. This was a pain in the butt trying to figure this all out. But basically what I did, I don't think he's doing that. I think if he's got two pair of sets, he's jamming. So I adjusted that. And so there was a few adjustments I made to the node locking. And I'm not going to go through it all here, but just because it took me so long to figure this all out and I was having some quirks. And anyway, bottom line was we have kings calling 82% of the time instead of 100% of the time. So I still think kings are an easy fold here. I don't understand why it's still 82, to be honest with you. It's got hands as strong as king, queen off, hitting top pair, folding half the time. So, I mean, maybe it has the villain. Let's see what the villain would do with top pair. Control. Look at this real quick. Just top pair. He's bent half the time. Okay, I guess I could buy that. But what is it? What is he raising the flop with? Ace queen of hearts. But I don't think he has ace queen of hearts. I don't think he's raising that with ace queen. So I don't think he has a lot of ace queen of hearts, ace king queen of hearts. These are hands that he would be, raising with on the flop potentially. But I had him on the flop. He's got flush draws. Only raising 30% of the time, which is fair. Probably doesn't even raise that much. But anyway, guys, that's what I had. Hopefully that helped a little bit. I'm done with this hand.